Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Gaura Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo. Jai Shri Shri Radha Govardhana Krishna Balaram Logira Shri Shri Gunitai Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavatam. Okay. What's it? Oh, there. The text heading. Okay. Raja Pradana Mahatas Shrilingo Devako Choditat Tita Sasya Bhutadi Iyad Adina Paschasya Rajapadana Namahatas Trilingo Deva Koditat Jata Sasya Bhutadi Iyad Adina Panchasya Rajapadana Mahatas Shrilingo Deva Koditat Jattasasya Bhutari Viyadadina Paschasya Ambadana Mahatas Rajapadanat, in which the element of Raja or passion predominates. Mahattaha, from the Maha Tattva, Sri Linga, of three kinds, Deva Koditat, impelled by superior authority. Jattaha was born, Shashaja evolved, Bhuta Adi, the false ego, origin of the material elements. Viyat, the ether. Adini, beginning with Panchashaha, in groups of 5. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. As impelled by the destiny of the jivas, the false ego, which is of 3 kinds, evolved from the Mahatattva, in which the element of Raja predominates. From the ego, in turn, evolved many groups of 5 principles. Purport. The primordial matter or prakriti, material nature, consisting of 3 modes, generates 4 groups of 5. The first group is called elementary and consists of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. The second group of 5 is called tanmatra, referring to the subtle elements, sense objects, sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. The third group is the 5 sense organs for acquiring knowledge: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. The fourth group is the 5 working senses: speech, hands, feet, anus, and genitals. Some say there are 5 groups of 5. One group is the sense objects, one is the elements, one is the 5 sense organs for acquiring knowledge, another is the senses for working, and the 5th group is the 5 deities who control these divisions. So, Agyantamurandasya Jananjana Slaka. Yes, so this is a very interesting topic. It's okay. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's a very interesting verse that tells us, Krishna advises that from the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this great destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. So we're hearing this in this verse that Krishna has created these senses, and we've got the. I'd like to talk a bit about this. The Bhagavad Gita describes the 11 senses. Firstly, the 5 senses for acquiring knowledge: the ears, eyes, nose, tongue, skin, and the 5 working senses: the voice, legs, hands, anus, and genitals. And of course, above this, we have another sense. It's called the sense within, which is the mind. And the mind is also considered to be part of this material body. So the Bhagavad Gita tells us, as far as these senses that we've been given are concerned, the real test of a yogi or devotee or self-realized soul is they're able to control these senses according to their plan. Therefore, it's highly recommended that a yogi should try and steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence or Krishna consciousness. Thus, by spiritual strength, bring the senses under control. The ultimate goal of our life, or the life of a yogi or a self-realized soul, is to gain liberation from this reincarnation cycle of birth and death. Return to the spiritual world, or the kingdom of God, the Garuda Govinda, where we can live eternally in a spiritual body and never have to take birth again. So, this is our goal, this is the goal. But the Bhagavad Gita also advises that one cannot achieve this goal without being self-controlled. Yes, without being self-controlled, without being obedient to the instructions of Guru and Krishna. So, it's so important. This is why it's so. This emphasis on senses and controlling the senses has been highly talked about in the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, And the reality is, it's not so easy to control the senses and the mind, which are compared sometimes to venomous serpents. You know, venomous serpents, it's like they just want to act very loosely without restriction, Prabhupada says. Therefore, a yogi or a devotee must be very strong to control these serpent-like senses and mind, like a snake charmer. And, Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita that the mind especially, the mind is it's turbulent, obstinate, very strong. Very strong, more difficult to control than a raging wind. Yes. And it's very difficult. The mind, is taking us here, there, and everywhere. Telling us happiness is there, here. Giving us no peace. Yes. And the senses, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells us the senses are so strong and impetuous that they just forcibly carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination who's endeavoring to control them. So what does this actually mean? What is Krishna telling us? He's telling us that you cannot trust the mind or the senses. But even one of the roaming senses can carry away our intelligence. Therefore, we must learn to control the mind and control the senses, not simply let them control us. And that's generally what's happened in the world today. People are just completely controlled by the mind and senses. They have no control. So on one hand, we have to be very practical about techniques for keeping our consciousness pure. And this means seriously taking up spiritual practices on a daily basis. Hearing sacred literatures like Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, chanting our rounds very attentively, only eating pure sanctified foodstuffs, Krishna Prasad, or trying to keep in good association with spiritually minded friends who share our spiritual aspirations in life. These things will keep our spiritual batteries charged up. On the other hand, we must be humble. We have to be humble and understand that material contamination, because we're not pure devotees, material contamination is an ever-present reality in our life. Therefore, we have to learn how to cope with it and use our brains, use our intelligence to rise above it. At the same time, we have to constantly pray to Krishna for protection, for guidance, for that firm determination to remain strong in our spiritual journey. And this is why we see the Goswamis, even the very advanced devotees, they're in this mood of helplessness, calling out for mercy. And we see this, the nature of Sankirtan devotees out distributing books. They just feel this total helplessness and dependent on Krishna's mercy just to be able to perform their service, just to distribute a book. I was telling this to Luke the other day, Vijay, when he's out there doing books. Makes it look so easy. But when he's handing him that book, he's praying within his heart to Krishna, to the super soul in that person's heart. Please inspire them to take the book. And they take it. When you get that empowerment, when you get that mercy of Krishna, which can only comes after many years of Sankirtan Yajna, you get that empowerment. There's that devotee right in Florida, what he distributed, the record books in the last minute. How much? It was the whole like a whole pallet of books. He distributed a whole truckload of books. I can't remember how much it was, but it was just like the books were going out so fast. This guy was so empowered by Krishna that he didn't even have time to open the boxes. He just had another devotee handing him the books, and they were just going out. He distributed something like 5 or 6 sets of books there on the street, whole sets. Yeah, so this calling out for Krishna, getting that. So we have to pray for that protection, guidance, firm determination to remain strong in our spiritual journey. And if we sincerely try and we find some difficulty coming up to the highest standard, perhaps due to the influences of the modern age or our past material conditioning. And Prabhupada, Krishna talks about this in the 11th canto. We shouldn't become overly depressed or morose because we're not coming up to the highest standard. Because this may lead us to give up our spiritual practices altogether. Or rather, we should, despite our shortcomings, and we should simply remain enthusiastic in our spiritual practices and just have faith that in due course of time, as I become more advanced in Krishna consciousness, Krishna will purify my heart and help me overcome my many difficulties and shortcomings. We have to be patient. Becoming a pure devotee doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process. So, every day, actually we're at war. We're in a battlefield here. We're in a war with Maya. This very powerful material, deluding material energy. And Maya, she's like a very clever thief. She's going to try and steal away our Krishna consciousness. Yeah. She's going to try and steal it away. Just to get a human form of life is so rare. When you think about all the different millions of species of living entities, just to get a human form of life is rare. And among all the humans in the world, how many people have this most valuable asset, Krishna consciousness? Very, very few. Some people talk about, my greatest asset is my house or my investments or my money in the bank. But for devotees, our greatest, most precious asset is our Krishna consciousness. Therefore, we have to be very vigilant to protect it. As I said, Maya, she's going to try and steal it away. And she's very clever. Sometimes even we see Maya may get into your ear or get into devotee's ear and tell them, just see, you're not strong. Give in to your weakness. This is something you just got to go through. Why are you going against your real nature? You won't last. This we see in this way, or sometimes Maya gets into your ear and tells you, today you only chanted 8 rounds. But actually, you're still Krishna conscious, you're still a devotee. Actually, you don't really feel any more Krishna conscious than you did when you chanted 16 rounds. Or Maya might get into you and say, why do I need to chant rounds? Why do you need to chant rounds? You're still a devotee. You're still practicing Krishna consciousness. In this way, gradually Maya can take us away from Krishna consciousness. And one fine day, you may wake up and find you're not even a devotee anymore. We're just living out there in the world like everyone else. In this way, we see so many devotees actually have left this movement due to the influence of this powerful, deluding material energy, which causes them to just give up their spiritual practices altogether. Sometimes spiritual progress requires that we leave unfavorable habits behind. But as the saying goes, old habits die hard. Some people, they have these really bad habits. They just can't Give it up. Of course, this is all just Maya's trick. You may think, if I just gratify my senses in this way or that way, I'll get some relief, I'll get some satisfaction, I'll get some enjoyment and pleasure. But everyone knows, and we all know, we've all experienced it, and we all know it's just an illusory relief, a false hope of relief and satisfaction. It's not real pleasure or enjoyment or happiness at all. And the nature of material enjoyment is the more you get, the more you want, and the less satisfied you are. As it says in Bhagavad Gita, this lust, it just burns like fire. It's never satisfied. And it just leads to total frustration. So we see so many frustrated people in the world. Yes. And of course, if you not really following the principles of Krishna consciousness, you have to pay dearly. How do you have to pay? You have to live with horrible consciousness. And also you have to accept the reactions which manifest in the future. When you cut off your relationship with Krishna, what happens? Your consciousness just becomes covered over like a big cloud, just covers you over. This powerful material energy just covers you over, and you just become bewildered by your false ego. You cannot understand where you are as a spirit soul, how you fit in, how you belong to Krishna, how you're an eternal servant of Krishna. And this just leads to just total, ultimate unhappiness. Therefore we see, nowhere in the scriptures does it say you have to give in to your weaknesses, or you have to give up your spiritual practices because you can't follow properly or strictly, or you're not coming up to the highest standard. The sastras say no. Take it up. Take up seriously techniques for purification. Practice your sadhana. Follow the principles of Krishna consciousness in the varnashram system. Don't leave the association of devotees. Keep in the association of devotees. Fight back. Be victorious. We've got to remain strong, like the great warrior Arjuna. He's sitting on his chariot. And who's sitting next to him? We're also sitting on a chariot, aren't we? The material body. And who's sitting right next to us? It's Krishna in our heart. He's so far away in the spiritual world, but he's so near to us. He's right there in our heart. Yes. As a Paramatma, the super soul. So you could say it's an eternal combat between good and evil, between materialism and spiritualism, between right and wrong action. It's always going on. But if Krishna's on our side, just like he was on the side of the Pandavas, we'll always be victorious. We'll always come out on top. But it's not easy, actually. The world doesn't make it easy. It's inevitable that we will face obstacles as we step onto the spiritual path. Everyone's experienced it if you've been around for a while. Obstacles coming from within us, anarthas, material desires, so many things. Obstacles coming from the world around us. Sometimes even your family members or your friends, people come to Krishna consciousness, and they're trying to encourage them, to leave Krishna consciousness. It's like we were talking to Rupa the other day about how he's how his parents got him kidnapped, and they tried to deprogram him, these deprogrammers. And sometimes, people, basically parents, they can never really understand why you gave up your normal life and became a Hare Krishna. Actually, once I was trying to explain to my mother why I became a Hare Krishna and what a great life it is. And I spoke to her for quite a long time, and I thought she'd really got it. But then she said to me, "But don't you think you'd be better joining the army?" And I went, "Oh, I gave up." They can never really understand why that. All your friends, just like David Ridaswami, I was listening to this class, David Ridaswami, and he was saying how if you tell your friends, that you're going to join the Hare Krishnas to become a servant, become a servant of Krishna, they think, what? A servant? Who wants to be a servant? To be a servant's like a demoralizing thing, I mean, to become a servant of Krishna? Yes. So it's especially in the early stages when we first come to Krishna consciousness, it can be very disorientating to learn that everything we assumed we knew about ourselves and about the world isn't as true or as meaningful as we thought it was. Yeah, it's just like a real turnaround, in your life when you first come to Krishna consciousness. It's just like a whole different way of looking at yourself, at the world around you, about life. It's it can be a bit disorientating. For some people, it's just too much. They don't even want to remain in Krishna consciousness. And they just, it takes a while to, and naturally it takes a while to integrate into the movement, into the lifestyle, into living this pure spiritual and godly life. It's just like, it takes a while to adjust. Sometimes it takes some people longer than others. As I was mentioning about that devotee, he lives in Auckland. He's actually a really top Sankirtan devotee now, quite a very advanced devotee. But when he was a new devotee, and part of in New Zealand, David Ridaswami's ashram, your Bhakti training program is out there on the street doing books. This guy was out there doing books, but every now and then he used to sneak into McDonald's and get a Big Mac. It's like he just had this attachment, and it's like, of course after a while he got caught out, and he stopped it, but it just shows you, just sometimes people, they just can't quite adjust to the whole new lifestyle. And it's, of course, it's out there, people, we see that even amongst the people that come here in the Woofa village, they get this feeling that, they just want to, they don't want to become part of an institution, or follow any principles. They just want the free life. Just like we did a program once in a commune in Ukai, and we gave them some kirtan and some class, and then after they wanted to sing us a song, and they sang that song, "Nothing's gonna change our world." It's like, yeah, people, they think, they don't want to become part of an institution. They don't want to be controlled. They don't want to follow any rules and regulations. It's just this anarchy which has just infiltrated the world. We just do what you want to do, go where you want to go, be what you want to be. Don't listen to anyone, don't follow anyone. ultimately just be totally selfish. It's all about me, my sense gratification. This is the anarchy. And you can see this anarchy. It's coming through the music. It's just infiltrated into society. And so many people, especially amongst the younger generation, they just follow this anarchy. It's just pretty hard. When you're trying to preach Krishna consciousness, we have to be very careful how we talk to people according to time, place, and circumstance. We have to deliver Krishna consciousness according to what people can handle. How people can. So in Bhagavad Gita, we learn that beyond these, we're reading about these knowledge-acquiring senses and the working senses. Beyond that, we have the mind, or the senses within. This mind. And the mind is responsible for thinking, feeling, and intention. And like a computer's hard drive, the mind stores facts, it stores memories. It means that every sense experience, whether it comes from the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the senses, the skin, it leaves an impression and on the mind. And the mind is changing constantly based on our experiences in life. So what does the mind want? Everything and anything. It moves from one thing to another. The mind's nature is simply to want. As I said, the mind is just taking us here, there, and everywhere. Telling us happiness is here, happiness is there. Giving people no peace. And as it says in the Bhagavad Gita, when there's no peace of mind, there cannot be any happiness. Especially there cannot be any peace for grossly materialistically minded people or persons whose mind tells them there is no Supreme Lord, that they are themselves the center of existences, that they themselves are the supreme controllers, enjoyers, proprietors of this world. And Bhagavad Gita explains that such persons are just driven on by hundreds and thousands of material desires that can never actually be completely fulfilled. In this way, the mind torments their hearts and completely bewilders them. And we may have also had that experience in life, with the mind. It just gives us so much trouble, so much, just takes away all our peace. And of course, the way to purify the mind, the stubborn, restless, powerful, turbulent mind, and we've experienced this as devotees, is to rest the mind in the chanting of the Krishna's holy name, the sound vibration, which not only purifies the mind, controls the mind, and pacifies the mind, but it brings the mind under control, purifies the mind. Then the mind becomes our best friend. Yes. This is Krishna's recommendation, that we rest the mind in the sound vibration of Krishna's holy name. And it's all due to this mental concoction that people cut off their relation with the Supreme Lord and see themselves as independent. So in Bhakti Yoga we learn that ultimately we are not this mind. Just like we're not the body, the mind is also part of the body. It's the sense within. It's not us in reality. So we shouldn't listen to the mind, especially when the mind is presenting things which are harmful to our spiritual well-being. So the mind may be telling us to do this or do that. Therefore, utilizing our higher spiritual intelligence we should become very expert in disobeying the mind's orders. Yeah. Learning to control the mind and senses is what we have to do. Not let those the mind and senses simply control us. It is said that the mind is like a small child, is naughty, crafty, always demanding attention. However, like the small child, the mind is easily engaged or entertained, just like a child. You just give them a little toy or something. So through these teachings of Bhakti Yoga, we learn how to give the mind higher engagement in spiritual practices. Thus the mind becomes focused, becomes peaceful, becomes controlled. When we spiritualize the mind and intelligence, we naturally have a more meaningful thought patterns, which will inspire us to neglect inclinations that may jeopardize our spiritual progress. These are just some of the amazing benefits we get from following this Bhakti Yoga process, which is a genuine spiritual path. So ultimately, we should understand to take shelter of the fickle mind and false ego is to take shelter of illusion. Better we take shelter of Krishna and become firmly fixed in his devotional service by utilizing our mind, our senses in his service. And as I said, especially constantly bathing the mind in the sound vibration of Krishna's holy name. So to achieve the goal in Bhakti Yoga or Krishna consciousness, which is to develop this pure, loving, devotional service, and if we want to become an effective, empowered preacher or book distributor, we have to have purified consciousness. So a devotee is very careful to guard his or her consciousness very carefully. And Krishna has given us various techniques to keep ourselves pure. Just like sometimes, when you get the first hint of a cold or a flu, you take lots of vitamin C, you take echinacea, right, to ward it off. So just as things related to your body, you have to be in tune with your consciousness and know how to refine and finely tune your consciousness. So when you can feel that your consciousness is not feeling good, or Krishna consciousness, when you're not feeling too good in your Krishna consciousness, you need to know how to take good instructions from Guru, Sadhu instructions. You need to really take shelter of the holy name. You need to take some time out to do more reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita. You need to take some time out to really focus on your internal spiritual development and strengthening his spiritual consciousness. We see that sometimes, we see Sankirtan devotees are out there, and if they're not feeling very strong, if they suddenly, due to the influence of the powerful material energy out there and dealing with so many spiritually minded people all day, sometimes they have to take a step back, take a break, and just focus on reading and chanting and maybe going to the holy dham, going on a spiritual pilgrimage, taking some guidance and shelter of those devotees who have strong faith in Krishna consciousness. So we always have to be on guard to protect our Krishna consciousness. Out of total ignorance, we've spent thousands upon thousands of lifetimes just squandering our whole life, caught up in this temporary bodily conception of life. What this bodily conception of life, what it does, it just locks you into your own little illusory universe. where everything is centered around this misconception that I am this material body, and the whole goal of my life is simply to try and enjoy this body. And everything in relation to this body is mine. This is a little illusory universe that we get locked into. So Krishna consciousness involves this powerful hygienic process to get free from this bodily conception of life, so we can realize our eternal spiritual identities as eternal loving servants of Krishna. So if we want to achieve spiritual perfection, go back to Godhead in this lifetime, we must control our senses and mind. This is the advice given by Guru, Sadhu and Sastra. Whether we're brahmacharis, brahmatrinis, grihastas, vanaprasthas, sannyasis, all ashrams are meant for self-realization and stepping stones to going back to Godhead. So therefore, in all ashrams, sense control, mind control, absolutely essential. Of course, for the general mass of people, the mere mention of the word self-control, they think, oh, that's horrible. They think you must be crazy. Unfortunately, in our modern world, due to lack of real spiritual culture and transcendental knowledge, our modern man has become a mere puppet of passion, just a slave of his uncontrolled senses. Because people haven't found a higher purpose in their life and a greater understanding of life's meaning, and haven't mastered their sexual energy, they naturally feel unsatisfied, unhappy, and unloved. Probably one of the greatest myths in human society is that sexual enjoyment is the cause of unlimited, ultimate happiness. Thus, it's become the overwhelming obsession of modern society. And if you're not highly interested in it, you're considered very weird or very crank. However, we see surveys actually show that people are bored with sex. Yet they're just hoping against hope that sex will make them happy. Of course, many people, and including psychiatrists, say if you repress lust and sex desire, it's very dangerous. Leads to mental disorders. So we agree. Lust has to be eliminated, not suppressed. You can never get free from something which is suppressed. Celibacy means control, not suppression. And control happens naturally when you purify the mind and intelligence and consciousness through spiritual practices. So it's not a matter of suppression, but a dynamic conversion process of controlling the sex energy, conserving it, then diverting it into higher channels, and finally into spiritual energy. Thus we read about this in the scriptures, that by controlling the senses, one acquires superhuman mystic powers, sharp intelligence, great health and vitality. The mind and senses become fully spiritualized, and ultimately one becomes blessed with the highest form of mysticism. And what is that? You get blessed with pure love of God. So we see the duties of spiritually minded Krishna-conscious married couples is produce virtuous and spiritually enlightened children. And this comes through spiritual practices, because at the time of conception, the consciousness of the parents will determine on the soul which is attracted into that womb. Yes. So one of the goals of Krishna consciousness movement is to help redirect the world towards social tranquility, peace and harmony by introducing this Vedic culture. You know, Prabhupada once stated to one reporter that I am creating a whole new civilization here in the West, a whole new way of life that people haven't even dreamed of. A happy life, free from all anxieties, and great hope of going back to Godhead in this life. And so we can see that by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and his dedicated followers, so many people all over the world are sincerely taking up this Bhakti Yoga tradition. Now, as we see that, millions of people around the world are chanting Hare Krishna, practicing vegetarianism, meditating, studying the Vedas, honoring deities, accepting bona fide gurus, visiting temples, staying in ashrams, attending festivals, utilizing their abilities and talents and resources in Krishna's service. Srila Prabhupada, he opened the door to one and all without discrimination. Therefore, we see this Krishna consciousness, it's open to everyone to come and experience how true spirituality just opens the door to this incredibly extraordinary life of transforming consciousness and awakening our natural love for the Supreme Lord and our natural love also for each other. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I should have asked if anyone has any questions. I went on a bit long. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.